Hey Brian, how are you? Looks like you're still on mute, buddy.
Wouldn't be the first time, right?
Nope, that's the phrase of the century, right?
Exactly.
But thank you for joining us today on this episode of A Hired Calling, Resume Regulators A Hired Calling. You and I haven't met yet, so I'm trying to get up to speed on what you've been doing on your impressive career. Looks like you're a Marine, Super Fidelis.
Hoorah.
And so, how many years did you do, and what did you leave the service as? What rank?
Yeah, so I did 20 years, started out in aviation, so I flew helicopters for a while. And then from there, I did a couple other things that we all do in the Marine Corps. And then eventually, what got me to where I am today, I was in charge of transitioning for the Marine Corps Wounded Warrior Regiment. And so that's what got me into the passion for helping folks with transitioning, actually sitting there in the trenches with these service members and figuring out how are we going to set them up for success prior to transitioning from the military. And actually, that's how SkillBridge actually got started. As I started putting our Marines into SkillBridge or into internships, I should say. And then the JAG, like as all good JAGs like to say, no, you can't do it. I said, well, what do we got to do? He says, you got to change the law. So I was also a legislative affairs officer. So back in 2012, I actually added language into the NDAA to allow transitioning. I didn't say wounded. I said allow transitioning service members to participate in internships prior to transitioning from the military. And then we use that language to create SkillBridge.
Oh wow!
But
So
go
Brian,
ahead.
are you telling me that you are partially responsible for the early creation of SkillBridge?
I would say wholly. Agree.
That,
Well, what
wow,
I wrote the language to make it law.
that is fantastic. You have done an amazing thing for veterans, and I thought I would know the person's name who did this, and it's you. That's amazing. I mean, I just
It's
didn't.
funny because I hear a lot of people say, "Hey, they created SkillBridge." I was like, "No, you didn't." How it got created was by creating a law that then, as laws, you create policy from law from the NDA. So I'm the one who wrote the language into the NDA.
That's amazing. So you did that while you were on active duty, doing the
Yeah,
Wounded Warriors program.
yeah. So it's just, I tell people it wasn't crazy. It's just like, we use critical thinking or average man theory. It's like if you're in a position, what needs to be done? And I think we just find a way to get her done.
So then, from the time of creation to what it was last year prior to this recent update, how did it change from what it was? So what you guys intended it to be to what it is, to what it was before the newest change.
Yeah, so we only wrote the law, and then I worked with DoD to create the DoD policy many years ago. And then from how policy is written in the military order, is then from the DoD policy, then each branch of the service creates their own policy. Marine Corps order or Marine Corps. It differentiates between the services, and originally, it was slow going, right? Because it's hard to let somebody, commanders to get on board with letting service members go away for 180 days or even 90 days, and we know back then, it's like nobody likes to give anybody else a good deal. I was just talking to a service member today coming out of Hawaii who just got SkillBridge today. And still to this point, even some commanders are still reluctant to allow folks to do SkillBridge. But we still, at Northrop, we've had over 500 SkillBridge folks with us, and it's been heck, we convert about 95, 96% into full-time opportunities following their internship. So it's been very successful for us.
So I just finished my doctorate in December of 2023, and one of my interviewees was a Northrop Grumman employee. He went through the SkillBridge program, had lots of great things to say about it. So it's very interesting to meet you now and talk about its creation. And you were in the service and active duty when it's created. Now you're at Northrop Grumman, and he made an interesting comment in that when that first iteration was going around, I'm not sure if it's first iteration, but the class he was in, he witnessed Grumman be kind of pushed to the side because they were hiring all the great candidates, and some other companies were complaining that they weren't getting a chance to hire. So he says that Grumman went and created their own SkillBridge program.
Well, eventually what happened was when I joined Northrop Grumman, we used to be with HOH. And God bless HOH. I have nothing bad to say about HOH. But what bothered me was when I created SkillBridge was primarily for our enlisted folks, right? Because our wounded warriors, many of them were E6s and below. So, to me, I'm all about the enlisted, the junior enlisted, the NCOs, and how do we get those guys opportunities? As an officer, heck, we have a network, we can build a network, we have opportunities that our junior folks don't have. So that's where my passion is. And so the one thing I didn't necessarily like with HOH, I don't know if they've changed recently, is that you had to have a degree, right? And our enlisted don't have degrees. And also they start on cohorts, right? You and I both know we have service members who transition all year round. So maybe those cohorts don't align with their transition plan, right? Or when their command is going to give them the ability to participate in SkillBridge. So we didn't want to negate somebody from starting a SkillBridge position based on some cohort date that they didn't fall into or because they didn't have a degree. So we think it opens up the aperture to a wider candidate pool from technicians to, test pilots and everywhere in between.
Yeah, I agree with you. In general, I believe the cohort model is the best way to learn and change. However, with what we're already facing with the dynamics of the military experience at the tail end, as you're trying to transition out, cohort model might not be the best way. So you guys probably did a great thing there in opening the aperture.
Yeah, I don't know. Learn and change in which way?
So there's research that says that learning in a cohort model increases your retention. You're able to learn more because you also make connections.
If they were working together, right? If they were working together in a cohort, but our SkillBridge, they're not stationed together in a cohort. We have some who are test pilots. We have some who are on the floor building aircraft, testing aircraft, doing software. So they're not necessarily in a group together.
Right. You're right. I was mixing together the TAPS part of it and then the SkillBridge part of it. The TAPS part of it still remains a cohort program, I imagine, as far as I know.
Although we do have one cohort of software. So we just recently had a software cohort where we brought in 13, now 12, one had to drop, but 12 veterans, and we're training them through an 18-week software engineering program. They didn't, and then to teach them how to be software engineers for Northrop Grumman. So that is a cohort where they'll be taking classes and learning together. So yeah, I see where you're coming from. That part does work, that kind of framework and learning.
You just gave me a new piece. So you guys have your standard SkillBridge operations, and now you just said there's a smaller piece for software engineers that are going to be learning to be that for Northrop Grumman, but that's not a recurring program right now.
Now this is our second go around. So the first one was great. We had I want to say 12. We hired 10, and then this one 13, and we got 12 through 12 in the class right now. So yeah, it's successful. We feel that been very successful for Northrop and the needs that we'll have for opportunities in the future. And so we call it a pilot, but second time around, hopefully, I don't know if we can make it standard year round.
Thank you for that. So have there been other programs like this where it was a standalone one-time, two-time kind of a skill up situation where you needed software engineers like this, maybe for a different skill set that you know of? Not
within Northrop. This is our first time doing it. And so we hope to do more. We're looking at other opportunities, so we have an education program. We're working with A&P schools. We're working with looking at survivability engineers, another type of training to basically, give those folks who have, the skill sets or maybe the knowledge or some of the experiences, but not necessarily the exact things that we need to be a survivability engineer, or even like earned value management. So, we have a lot of financing and folks in the military, but one thing that we don't do in the military that we do on the civilian side is earned value management. So I tell a lot of folks, if you've got time before you can transition and you're in a financial fields, do EVMS. And that's huge for us. Interestingly, the gentleman who I just talked about earlier, coming from Hawaii, who is getting into a SkillBridge, the hiring manager was a SkillBridge. He came Northrop Grumman through SkillBridge. Now he's a hiring manager and he's bringing another SkillBridge guy on. So, and both in finance and EVMS. With SkillBridge, we're able to get them that experience in EVMS while they're doing SkillBridge with us. So, set them up for full-time offers at the end. But if they can get that, transitioning service member not able to do SkillBridge, but if you're in that field, it's a good skill set. It's a small, it's a certificate, right? It's like PMP.
I can back up and attest to the value of knowing earned value management and corporate government contractors. I've through that myself. It's a unique way to look at financials, and it's a way that most veterans actually think along these terms, and we communicate in these terms. And knowing how the financial side of it works is actually very helpful. You brought up another topic for me. So in my time in government contracting, I spent time working with looking at DOTCs, Defense Ordnance Technology Consortium, and other technology consortiums to see what technology the government was looking for next, and how did my company, how can we meet those needs? Similar to that, how does Northrop Grumman look at what skills you're going to need next for the future?
Wow. I mean, with the things that are going on right now, obviously we're big in the STEM. So, the skill sets with, we're doing modeling and simulation. So a lot of that stuff that we used to build and is now all done in modeling and simulation. So that helps, greater to, like, we're just building the next generation aircraft, right? Back in the day, building the next generation aircraft, say the F-18, would take 5-10 years. Now we can do that in a year to 2 years, from sketching to putting out a product. So modeling, simulation, AI, all that stuff is huge when it comes to designing and engineering. And so, we're doing a lot of that. We're working on some programs right now that hopefully, we will come forward. But still, we still have, those are for those, but we still have logistics, supply chain, logistics, technicians, testing, engineering. So I always used to say anything that you have, any MOS, AFCC, AFSC, any of those rates that we have in the military, translate to an opportunity at Northrop. I don't say, let's take away the medical side, right? Even though we do have nurses, but anything else, we do have a lot of crossover with skill sets in the military to Northrop Grumman.
Change gears on you for a moment and go back in time to your Wounded Warrior days and that kind of space. Did you do a lot of the handoffs to other nonprofits once the service member would transition out? Or can you speak about nonprofits that are in this space helping veterans get to better jobs that you see who are doing a great job?
Yeah, I don't, I didn't like to add. I mean, I do know some that are very, I would say, very take a lot of initiative or well positioned in that space. But what I would say to folks is, transitioning service members is take a look at those folks who are willing to help you out. There's a Veterati, there's American Corporate Partners. Find a mentor, find someone, because it comes down to networking. Hiring our heroes, hire our heroes. Whatever it may be, get with one of those and get your resume reviewed, and also network, right? You got whether you want to be an entrepreneurship or, whatever it may be, connect with someone, because that is only going to expand your network, and it's going to get your resume reviewed. I don't want to do we all talk about tailoring your resume. It's true, right? So get with one of those organizations, network with those organizations, get out there and meet employers. I know in the Marine Corps, we used to have Message to Garcia, right? Which was standard reading, and where, a lot of times it was like, go find the answer on your own. When you're transitioning, there's a lot of people out there willing to help you. Take that help and go out and find it. Because what's going to happen when you go to a recruiter, say at a Northrop Grumman like myself, I'm not a career planner, right? We have hundreds of requisitions that we're trying to take care of. And as much as I would love to sit kneecap to kneecap with every candidate and tell them how to fix their resume or what positions they should be applying to, there's just not enough time in a day for us to do that. So utilize those nonprofits out there. You can Google search just as well as I can. Don't pay for anything. If a nonprofit or somebody's asking you to pay for something, drop them in a heartbeat. right? For us Marines out there, Semper Fi Fund, things like that. But there's a lot of folks out there, a lot of nonprofits, whether they're national or local, that can assist you in, helping you in your transition. Take those classes, take those courses, listen to folks who know what they're doing.
So the research says that about 60% of veterans seek resume help from nonprofits when they transition. I just did mine, and granted, it was different. I pulled most of my people from LinkedIn. I imagine my data set would be mostly, junior NCOs and non-NCOs. Ended up being E7 was my average rank. But from the people who responded to my survey to the people who were able to be interviewed because they had to have used a VSO, only about 10%. So I'm seeing a big difference between what I saw in veterans using VSOs at 10% versus what other research shows at 60. What would you say it is?
Wow, that's interesting information. I couldn't really speak. I don't know enough about that to speak to it, but I can tell you, I remember in my own transition, there's no silver bullet to a resume, right? There's no right or wrong resume. And I also think it also depends on the company that you're applying to. Whether you go to a Northrop Grumman, we really want to see those hard skills, right? And I won't go into tailoring your resume class here, but bottom line is those position descriptions are written by the hiring manager. Now, as a recruiter, I can only forward to the hiring manager what is in that position description and making sure that that person has that information, the skill set, the experience. If not, you're going to be set back, right? I've seen so many times people will apply to 50 different positions with the same resume. You got to tailor your resume. And I saw a great article on military.com right now, this morning, and about, resumes. So research that information about tailoring, because what I want to see is what's in that position description. If you were a sniper and you could snipe somebody from 500 yards, great. But what does that got to do with logistics, right? What does that got to do with supply? Myself as a pilot, great. I could fly 1,500 hours in an aircraft, but what does that really do with recruiting, right? So I got to talk about recruiting, what I did for recruiting. So stick to that position description and tailor it and have some people review it.
So you're saying that the Boolean search is the only method really for recruiters to find the right person. There's no magic. There's no hocus pocus. It's having the right keywords in your resume that match the job description.
Exactly. And we have great sourcers who use Boolean searches all day long. So, again, if you're going to be an engineer, supply, logistics, whatever it may be, make sure that's in your resume. And network, tailoring the resume are huge.
I saw on your LinkedIn profile there was a button to click that brought you basically to a veteran-specific section to upload your resume.
Yes.
So tell me what happens when veterans use that. What's the real deal? Does it go into your inbox? Does it go to right into the rest of the pile, or what happens to it?
No. So what we do is take that information. It goes into a program we call Avature. And then so you go into an Avature folder. And from that Avature, we're going to send you another link to more, get more information on you about is your wants, needs, and desires, right? Your locations, your degrees, if you have one, security clearances, something. I used to be in headquarters Intel, right? Intel is around us all over the place, right? But it's noise until it's synthesized and analyzed. So what we do is when you send that information to us, we're going to send you back, I hate to say it, another little form that's going to really get down into the weeds of what you're looking for. And then from there, as we have positions that open up, we're going to share it with our recruiting team and also our sourcing team. So Northrop, people aren't familiar. You have sourcers who that is all day, every day on LinkedIn, searching for candidates, so on and so forth. And then they share the candidates, qualified candidates that they find with the recruiters and the hiring managers. So when it goes into that Avature database that we have, our sourcers can search from there for specific needs, whether they're looking for engineers, technicians, logistics, supply chain, whatever it may be. So when you have things like that, it's key to get your information into those databases, because that's what we're using to search candidates.
And so a sourcer goes in and checks that that folder for possible candidates before they even go out to LinkedIn, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. They use, they they use multiple, LinkedIn Recruiter, GitHub, I think it is called, clearance jobs. So, but this one's internal to us. So for us, it's free. So for many of our recruiters who don't have all those sourcing tools, it's a free resource that they can go into and search. And it's across all sectors. So I'm with aeronautics sector. Northrop Grumman is made up of 5 different sectors. And so we're a worldwide company. So when you go in there, that Avature folder is available and is accessed by all different sectors. So you're not, pigeonholed to, just the locations and opportunities we have in aeronautics, space, defense system, mission systems, you name it.
So it's really a great idea for veterans to figure out what they want to do and upload their information to that portal.
Exactly.
The military career support form. They can access that on your LinkedIn. We'll put a link to it up here, and
Right.
they can get into the pool to be seen first from the sourcers before they even go out to LinkedIn. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Do you know other programs that have that feature? Other companies? I'm not trying to ask.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the more you get your information out there, I would research those companies that you're looking for, those companies that you're interested in. And then, I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of great companies out there, right? Whether it's Lockheed, Raytheon, all our frenemies, right? but great companies, that veterans work for, right? So if they have a tailor, join our military community or join that or this, join it, right? Because whether it's Avature or they have another, a resource, or what do you call it? CSM, I believe it is. It goes into their tools, right? They put that out there for a reason so that they can attract candidates and so that they can source from. So yeah, I know it might be, I used to tell my Marines, finding a job is a job. Okay. So you know what? If you work 8 hours in the military, hey, guess what? There's no difference in finding a career, right? You got to work for it. Find those out. I'll put a plug out there for 50 Strong. We do a lot of stuff with 50 Strong, great employers on there. So also when you see like these employers who are out there, we do a lot of military. Matter of fact, we do a monthly military information brief. When we're on there, you're going to have recruiters and military teams, again, from all different sectors. So I know we at Northrop Grumman are doing that. Research your companies that you're interested in. See if they have those opportunities for networking or meetups or things of that nature. Because sometimes at the end of the day, it just comes down to meeting the right person or, networking. I've seen it so many times. We do these meetups, we're getting back into it after COVID now, where we bring hiring managers to these networking events. And it's gangbusters, hiring managers, because once you meet somebody eye to eye, read their resume, get to know them as a person. So a lot of times when we're looking at these resumes, we're really splitting hairs, a lot of qualified candidates. So now when you go to these meetups or you're networking with someone and they get to know you, that's could be the difference between getting an opportunity.
So I totally agree with you. And sometimes as a hiring manager, you're down to 2 individuals with basically identical resumes that you can't decide on, and you're looking down to what factor is next, and often comes down to, are there any errors here? What keywords are best? But back
it's like a promotion board, right? It's like a promotion board.
Exactly, it is.
You're splitting hairs, between 2 great qualified candidates. So
you mentioned your frenemies. When I was at General Atomics, we referred to people or other companies that are in our same space as competimates, because we would bidding on the same contracts, and then whoever would win it, they would work together, and we try to work together.
Exactly.
I don't think it exists, but it'd be great if there was, a resource that was, hey, candidates, go put your information here, and one of these companies is going to hire you. And there's plenty of job boards and talent firms, but being able, if there was a way to reach in and see who is that Boeing, or who is that Grumman, or who is that BAE competitive type space that really should be on this project, and how could we collaborate to bring them here temporarily to, some of that really collaboration. And know it happens on whenever there's a contract that's already, in place, but I wonder what would happen for the hiring process.
Yeah, you know what? Matter of fact, I have worked with some colleagues from Boeing, from Lockheed Martin. We've had some discussions. because one of the big things that a lot of us need are aircraft structures, right? And aircraft structures, we have a lot of them at Northrop. I know Boeing, Lockheed Martin. So we're thinking about why couldn't we have some kind of training course near a military base, Camp Pendleton, for us Marines. But let's just, because, there are companies like BMW and others that do host training courses at these bases to train service members. So again, because we have locations in different, Lockheed, Northrop, Boeing, we all have different locations, right? But we need a lot of the same skill sets. So ideally, wouldn't it be great if we train to the same skill sets, for entry level structures, and depending on where that service member wanted to go, whether it's Texas, whether it's Missouri, or staying in California, they have to choose from, a Boeing, a Northrop, or a Lockheed Martin. So we have thrown that idea around at our level. So we'll see where it goes.
I'm gonna change gears on you again, if you don't mind, to a little bit
Yeah.
about the things that make people successful when they transition. And I think the biggest thing is self-efficacy. And so I don't know that we get self-efficacy the way that we get group efficacy in the military, because we accomplish great things. We all have these great stories, but we did those things with a group. And once you transition, you don't really have that group anymore unless you get into your network and you do build that very strongly. But most of us don't do that. Have you seen people who are more self-efficacious do better coming through organizations you work for? Can you speak a little about self-efficacy?
Yeah, you have to, for myself, I mean, I'll use my networking, and using that network. Matter of fact, I was just talking to, that to the article person who wrote that, and she mentioned using that network, self-efficacy. You got to build it up. I'll be honest with you. I worked for Department of Defense, the VA, and now with Northrop Grumman. All three positions were because of my network and people I knew who referred me and who, put me up for opportunities. Using that network, I think once you get into a position, internally, once you get into a organization like a Northrop, great thing about Northrop Grumman is we have a lot of military, right? It's overall 20% in our sector. Aerospace is about 25%. So there's going to be a lot of people that's going to help you once you get in. We have an ERG. Once you get in, so that camaraderie, right? You built that. But we had it in the military you can have. But yeah, once you're transitioning, I can't tell you enough. It's about reaching out, working with others, and connecting.
Are there any networking resources that people should look at that you haven't mentioned already? You mentioned ACP and some of the other nonprofits.
Better,
Veterati?
yeah, definitely reach out. Matter of fact, I had a director who got me a candidate who's on Veterati. I have one of my TA managers who's veteran on Veterati. So I'm telling at the end of the day is when one of those folks internally refers a candidate to me, you're going to get at least looked at. Again, there's no silver bullet, no guarantees, but if without going into the whole recruiting process and what a recruiter looks like, we open up our requisition, we see 100 candidates on there. We don't use a tool that does word searches or anything. It's all by eyeballs with Northrop Grumman, right? So, we could, if you can get your resume, somebody refers you, could get you on top. It's going to go a long way because it's, a director or a manager sends me a resume of a candidate. I'm going to do the professional courtesy of giving that candidate a good screen. And if they're a good candidate, they're going to hiring manager review, right? So yeah, that's why networking is so important, just to get yourself on top of the pile and first in front.
Thank you for that. Great advice. I agree with you wholeheartedly. What about veterans who may have left the military, gone into some other type of industry and not even related to their military experience, and then now have to change back careers because they lost their job or because they're moving or they can't get a promotion? How does somebody who's been out for a while come back and rejoin Grumman, besides knowing somebody that works there
Well, I'm hoping, well, maybe that whatever their first career after the military has, even let's face it, sometimes they take a 180, even coming out of the military, they take a 180, maybe get some training, maybe go to school using their GI Bill and join Northrop Grumman. I've had plenty of logistics technician guys who have gone, and girls who have gone to school, got some training, and came in as engineers, or you name it, any different thing. Now, if you got out, you got some training in something, you find out 4 years later, totally different than what you wanted to do, and you were an aircraft technician while you're in the Air Force, still opportunities, right? The one thing that people have to understand is the leveling aspect. Matter of fact, we're talking about retention, right? So, for instance, we work with the Service Academy Career Conference. A lot of these guys are engineers. Matter of fact, I just had a Marine pilot who went through our software engineering course in the last cohort. He had a computer science, then he joined the Marine Corps and was a pilot for 20 years, right? So, but he wanted to get back into software and in computer science, engineering, all that good stuff. I had to manage expectations and let him know, hey, if I was hiring you for a pilot, then I could count all those 20 years towards a position, a level 4 at Northrop Grumman. But basically, you have no software engineering courses or experience because you've been a pilot. God bless. I was a pilot. I think it's great, cool thing to do. But you're going to have to come in at a level 2. So a lot of service members don't understand that because they'll say, hey, 10 years experience, 11 years experience. But if you look at some of our jobs, it's 11 years of relevant experience, right? So if we're asking for an engineering degree and you got an engineering degree at college, but then you went an infantry officer for the next 10 years, infantry officer doesn't necessarily, even though you may have a mechanical engineering degree, will not count towards 10 years of mechanical engineering at Northrop Grumman. But going back to your question, there are still opportunities. You know what I always say is whether you're getting out or it's training, it's certifications, right? As I go back to it, splitting hairs. So look, I always say is look at a job. If you don't qualify now, look at position descriptions that you're looking for and backwards plan, right? If it's requiring EVMS, earned value management, or, some other certifications, go get it, right? So that you can add it to your resume, because that's only going to make you more qualified. Yeah, just look at the positions, what they call for, and make sure you can add it to your experience or certification list. IT is a great one, right? How many of those, Cisco certifications or any of the security, C++ or Python, if that's in the job description, go get it. It might take you 6 months. It might take you a year, but there's a lot of programs that cater to military, like Onward to Opportunity, like the Microsoft security certifications. So, take advantage of those free education training that's available to veterans to set yourself up for success.
Those are all great programs you just listed there. I think there's a knowledge problem and awareness problem that we have to work through. I also want to talk to you about luck a little bit. How lucky do you consider yourself?
Yeah, you know what? Luck, I consider myself blessed and lucky. You know what? And sometimes you got to make your luck. I think about this often as how I feel very lucky to be in my position. And, how did I get to be here at Northrop Grumman doing a job that I love, serving a community that I love, right? But I think you got to put yourself in the right position too, right? Meeting, networking, right? And how I met my managers is all through, working in my positions, doing a good job, and then not afraid to ask for help once you get out. I mean, that's how I literally got all 3 of my positions, as I seen these opportunities and I went and asked for help. So lucky, I guess, maybe just by networking and getting to know people. So I guess that's kind of lucky, but it was through hard work of networking. So maybe a little, networking, hard work, and a little luck that you run into the right person that will set you up and help you with your career and your transition. But again, you got to set yourself up for success. My dad, when I was younger, retired from General Motors in Michigan. Back then, back in the 50s, he got out of the Navy, went right to work for General Motors and had, a 30-year career at General Motors making great money.
Right.
A lot of those positions don't exist anymore, without some kind of training, whether it's, we hire a lot of structure mechanics out in Palmdale from the Antelope Valley Community College. They have a structures course that we help set up with our instructors So just that 12-week structures course that they go through, everybody gets interviewed after they come out. So hard work, setting yourself up for success, getting the skill, the training that you need so that you can be qualified for a position you're looking for.
Well, in the creating your own luck situation, you pretty much nailed it, hit it right on the head. So Dr. Richard Wiseman wrote a book about luck and other articles about luck. And it's not arguing that you can change your luck at the blackjack table. It's not what it's about. But increasing your interactions with people you don't know, doing things you don't normally do, like going networking, talking to people you meet in the grocery store line, in the bank line. The increase in interactions increases your luck. And things like walking around with a smile on your face versus a frown on your face increase the chance people talk to you, right? But all those things are things that veterans don't always do. We tend to stand in line and don't talk to people or from us. Not always walking around smiling. Some of us have a mean face or whatever else that it's just part of our growing up or our nature or our training or our experience or whatever it is. But finding ways to break those habits and create new habits increases your chances of finding people who can hire you.
100%. I could 100%. Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that's key, right? So if you're not used to, I mean, and you don't have to be an extrovert, right? You don't have to be Mr. Social out there, but you do have to open up a little bit and be open to help, right?
So research shows that the two best things for getting veterans hired is professional resume support, professional interview coaching. What do you see from your position when veterans come in to interviews and haven't had interview coaching?
Okay, definitely go to mock interviews. Definitely, as you mentioned earlier, we're not good about talking about ourselves, right? We always say we, even to this day, in my emails, I never say I'm always saying we as my team. And so, but when you're doing interviews, even I thought I was a great speaker. I used to give a lot of speeches, a lot of briefs. I was a pilot, briefing all the time. Thought I was great at public speaking, doing all that good things. I can tell you, my first interview, I was a mumbling, stumbling, bumbling idiot because now you're talking about yourself, right? And it's not natural for us to talk about what I did and all that things, all those good things. So if you have an opportunity to do a mock interview, do it. Or I'd always say, even to my candidates now, I said, even if it's not the position that you're crazy about, if a company offers you an interview, take it. Whether you're going to, even in the back of your mind, you may say, there's no way in heck I'm going to accept a job in Wapton, North Dakota, right? Sorry for all you Wapton residents out there. But we had a Marine Reserve Center there. That's why I think about it. But take it because you're only going to get better. And so, as you follow on for interviews, you're going to be able to learn to talk about yourself better. And then also, we're going to have some nervous energy when you go into an interview, right? It's natural. But I always tell candidates, look, they're not going to interview you if you didn't qualify for the position. So the hiring, we've gone through this screening, the hiring manager's made his decisions. He's not going to take, or she's not going to take time out of their day to interview someone that they're not wanting to hire. Not that you're going to get a position after every interview, but now, again, it might come down to 3 people that hiring manager is looking at to consider hiring. And a lot of times they just want to see if they're a good fit for their team, right? And now they're splitting hairs and they just want to talk to you, see if you're a good fit for the team, if you can fit into their culture, whatever that may be. So be prepared. Don't be a little nervous, not overly nervous. And then also, practice in the mirror. If you can't do a mock interview, practice in the mirror. And it'll definitely go a long way.
Have you seen or used or heard of any of the AI interview tools recently?
I have not, I'll be honest with you.
I have one, and I will send you a link to try it out, or I'll demo it for you next time myself, and you can watch it interview me. It is amazing now what we're able to do with AI. I mean, I'm sure you know that you use AI in your aircraft, right? But this doesn't just ask you questions like, tell me about yourself and where do you want to be in 5 years and those generic things. It gets into the nitty-gritty details of what you've done and what they're asking you to do. It's fantastic. I'll share it with you soon.
So I take that back. We just had a demonstration where we were using AI. We basically, I forget the AI program. I know it wasn't Chat GPT, that's whatever. But what they did is they took the requisition, the position description, they put it into AI, and then AI spit out potential questions, potential interview questions. And so we use it for the hiring managers, right? So, they can take their position description, use AI, put it into AI, and then AI will take out what are some potential questions based off that position description. So if you're going to practice for an interview, you're like, oh gosh, what kind of questions are they going to ask? Maybe use AI, throw that in there, and see what kind of questions they spit out, and be prepared for those.
That's actually perfect, Brian, because so my platform uses GPT-4 to generate the questions. And if you're using that to find them yourself, too. So my platform creates the questions and then presents them to you verbally, and you answer them. It listens to your answer and then grades you at the end and tells you how well you did. Do this, don't do that, and provide you the recommended answer. And if you guys are Chat GPT to get your recruiters to arm themselves with questions, then my product is doing the right thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm afraid what mine would turn out to be.
No, it's a let's say legitimate, intense interview in terms of I haven't been interviewed by any other person as hard, as difficultly as I was by this AI. That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I can imagine. I seen some of those questions that it spit out, and I was like, wow, amazing.
So can you tell me what you see as the future of resumes for all industry, not just Grumman? But so the resumes have progressed from, leaving what was a business card sized document at somebody's house when you visited to what we have now with people turning in, I'm sure, 3 to 5 pages of CV where it should be. But resumes are still, PDFs, and then we got to put the information into the company's form, and then both of them get submitted. But is this how we're always going to do it? What do you think is going to be the future of the employment process or the application process?
Yeah, because Northrop Grumman, we reread each one, right? So what you need for I can just only speak for us. Chronological resume, right? Don't get fancy. If we were a, maybe a, design company or something like that, of art or something else, but we're pretty, think about it. A lot of our hiring managers are engineers. They want straight to the point, right? We don't need a lot of nonsense in there. So, your upfront, your information, you can put a mission statement, but I would keep it to a minimum because I don't read those. Many of us don't read them. But you can just say, hey, 20-year Marine, top secret clearance, aviation technician, or I don't know, logistics officer, program management, whatever. Just very brief. But the biggest thing is the next section, is your skills section, right? That's where I said, go into that position description and pull out those key skill sets that they're looking for. And you can just bulletize them, whether it's 3 rows across, whatever. But that's where my eyeballs go first, is because if it's saying, hey, I need C++, Python, active secret clearance, and, backdoor or, software development, whatever. If you put those 4 or 5 skills up front, guess what? I want to keep reading. When they talk about, hey, recruiters only, spend 20, 30 seconds on a resume, truly, that's probably a lot, right? That's probably a lot. But I directly go and think of it as a Vegas casino. If I see like 5 or 6 of those things that are on the position description, automatically I keep reading down the resume more. And then in the body of the resume, use it chronological, and write what you did in with program management or communication skills or software writing, whatever the position description is requiring. And the reason we do chronological, because a lot of times we're trying to level people at the same time. So if the position says, hey, I need 10 years experience of this or 5 years experience of that, I'm using those dates in your chronological resume to see what level we can put you at, whether you qualify for a level 3 or level 4, whatever years of experience that position requires, and relevant experience, right? So, yeah,
Sorry, yeah, on topic of the summary being short and your skills up top and the amount of time spent being 20 seconds or less, I have a good friend who is head of talent acquisition at one of your competitive mates, and his saying is, "Your goal is to get me to scroll," and does the mouse wheel, right? Because
Yeah. Yep.
very important.
You know, like they say, give us the easy button. Don't make us search for stuff, right? If we got to search, if we got that one big, I see this all the time. People apply with their federal resumes. Done.
Yep.
Do not do a yeah, do not do a federal resume.
Max, right?
Yeah, yeah, obviously if you're PhD and you got doctorates and you got all these other, maybe more, but keep it directly applicable to the position you're applying to.
I appreciate that. So so we have Word documents, PDFs, and now we're on LinkedIn. But what's going to be the next thing? We're going to walk around with a chip or a token that says, "Here's my resume. Here's my application material." What's after this? Upload my PDF, fill out my form. What's the future of the employment process?
Gosh, that's a good question. I really don't see anything in the next year or two. Maybe with technology in 5 years.
Blockchain.
Yeah. I think it'd be a good idea if you have a QR code. Like if you're out there networking, you have a business card, put a link, if you're able to put a link on a QR code on the back of your resume, I think that'd be great because then as a recruiter, I can use my phone and I can look at your resume instead of carrying them around, and scroll. Yes.
New dot cards that connect your all of your information on a dot card, or it can even be they have these little pieces that fix to your phone, and you can use this. It has all
That's
your
awesome
on there. That's
yeah, like we talked about networking. You never know who you're going to run into. I mean, how many conversations do we have on an airplane or, in a meeting or you run into people? Keep it available.
So I appreciate your time here today. I know I don't want to hold you over. I would love
No
to
problem.
in the future if you're ever up to it. And I see you're wearing that Notre Dame Fighting Irish shirt. I think you did that on purpose, and I couldn't let you get away with not bringing up the USC versus Trojan, USC versus November 3rd.
Hey, you know what? It's a great rivalry, right? It's a great rivalry. I'm a big Notre Dame fan, but I'll be honest with you, I'm a college football fan, and regardless of what team you choose, what team you root for, it's the passion of college football that's amazing. So
it is. It's great. Well, you guys are coming to USC this year. I'm trying to get up there and watch that game. If you make it up there too, we should get together.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Are you in San Diego?
I'm actually in the happiest place on earth, Orlando, Florida.
Oh, okay. So it's late there for you. Orlando, Florida. Well,
Yeah.
well, if you do get out here to California for any of your recruiting trips, be sure you let me know. And if I get to Florida, I'll do the same thing. But I'll be in touch with you very soon through LinkedIn or email for some more correspondence, if you don't mind.
Oh, that'd be perfect. Love to help.
Brian, this was awesome. I can't believe that you created SkillBridge. This is amazing. You've done a great work, and I'm sure people have congratulated on you before. But I mean, I just went through a 3-year research into this space, and what you created is probably the single biggest, most influential thing to happen to veteran careers as they transition in our lifetime.
Yeah, sometimes it's good being humbled. I look back and I'm like, and I think any one of us, and I truly say this, it's like people say that, and I was like, you know what though? I think any others, one of us who are put in the same position, just would have looked around and said, okay, what do we got to do to fix this? And so it really, truly wasn't that hard to come up with. Just fortunate to be in the right place at the right time.
Well, you were prepared, so great job.
Yep.
I will talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Awesome. Take care.
Bye-bye.